Welcome back to Secret Weapons, and today we're taking a look at the Silt Harmonic Fuzz by Walrus Audio. This is a fun one because we don't see a lot of collaboration releases with Walrus Audio these days, and largely for good reason. Walrus is a well-established brand with a great team that consistently releases really killer gear. I am frequently just so enamored with the new stuff they have coming out, but every so often you change things up, and today we are taking a look at the Silt Harmonic Fuzz from Walrus Audio. And if you have a keen eye, you'll notice there's a little window here with a tube in it, and it's not just for show. This is a tube-driven fuzz pedal with a harmonic doubler at the front of the circuit. This is designed in collaboration with Hagerman Amplification, a great up-and-coming tube amp builder. The Silt is a 9 or 12 volt capable tube-driven fuzz pedal with a volume, a tone, a gain control, as well as a 3-position contour switch for high cut and low cut controls that are largely subtle-ish in ways that are very complementary to that tone control, in my opinion. The fuzz itself is built around a JJ12AU7 preamp tube, and I think you might be able to put other tubes into this. I'm not going to recommend doing that because I have neither tried it nor have I talked to Walrus about what will happen if you swap it out, but I don't know. If you're bold, maybe void your warranty. Have fun with it. Disclaimer, don't actually do that, and don't get mad at me if you do mess up your pedal. But all that to say, this is a spitty, angry, splattery, crazy fuzz pedal. Running it at 12 volts will get you more gain out of it, and in my opinion, a slightly more refined sound than running it at 9. We kind of ran 9 and 12 on the intro song, depending on the part, and for the sound samples coming up next, we run it at 9 the whole way through, because it's going to be the most common use case for kind of the majority of people interested in picking one of these up. So this thing at its core is a pretty straightforward and cool sounding tube-driven fuzz pedal. But before we get into our sound samples, I want to call attention to and highly recommend that you either listen to the end or skip to the Harmonic Switch portion of our sound samples, because this thing is where this Silt pedal goes from fun, splattery, angry, angular goodness into something really chaotic. The Harmonic Switch is basically a harmonic doubler. It builds up a ton of harmonic frequencies and overtones ahead of the tube itself. And as you heard on that intro, the dynamic between single notes and building chords into this tube creates a lot of different overtones and interesting textures, whereas that Harmonic Switch does a ton of that stuff, and even more so all on its own, resulting in a really fascinating responsiveness to your guitar. We'll really kind of dig into some chord shapes and some kind of more conventionally like harmonic sounding intervals versus some more kind of angular, augmented chord shapes, and the way that those two things really clash and kind of offer up counterpoints against one another. So that harmonic situation, that harmonic switch on this thing is really interesting. Let's get into our sound samples. As always, before we get into our sound samples, let's go ahead and talk through our signal chain and the context we are working in. I am playing my 52 reissue Fender Telecaster into the Benson Boost, the Walrus Audio Silt, the Walrus Audio Meraki analog delay, the Chase Bliss Audio Blooper, and the Universal Audio DelVerb. We are going into my amplifier, which is the Matchless Lightning 15, into the Universal Audio aux box. We're recording into the DAW Luna by Universal Audio. We're using a Neve 1073 for preamp setting, and then we are kind of doing final level setting and mastering with the SSL bus compressor and ATR master tape. This is what our dry tone sounds like. We're going to start with contour in the center position, gain and tone at noon, volume at a slight boost to kind of like hit unity. I have found with the Silt that lower gain offers a little bit more clarity, and it gets kind of progressively more woolly as you crank that gain and you kind of like drive that tube harder. I also really like a little bit of a forward tilt in that tone. So let's go ahead, tilt the tone just kind of slightly above noon, take that gain nice and low, and start walking through the kind of like gain staging in this thing. And full gain. Yeah, there is a ton of gain on tap. I really like the kind of like lower range of this thing, where it kind of has that sagginess of a tube, but still has kind of more of a crunch than the kind of like woolliness of a fuzz. Yeah, it's real nice. Let's go ahead and take a look at that tone control. It's really spitty and really kind of like splattery as you push that treble up. Let's go ahead and take a look at this contour control. We've been at a flat response the entire time, but you can also shelve your lows or your highs for either added kind of like softness, darkness, warmth, and a little bit less kind of like noise, especially if you're playing single coils like I am, or you can cut some lows for greater clarity. That slight low cut while also rolling the tone back is pretty nice. You leave this at flat and you can hear, even with something as spanky as like a Telecaster, it's not a lot, it's just a slight low cut that really Conversely, we have a high cut or a low pass filter. Comparatively. Like, I don't know that I would use that high cut for like the more like lead focused stuff, but I do really like it for those lower notes and kind of single note runs if you want it to sit in the mix a little bit deeper. So let's go ahead and take a look at this harmonic switch. This is described as a 2-in-1 fuzz by the crew over at Walrus Audio, and the reason for that is you have that kind of conventional fuzz sound, and then this harmonic switch is basically a frequency doubler ahead of the tube fuzz stage itself, creating a kind of like really dense harmonic buildup ahead of the tube. And as you heard so far in like the intro song and these samples, the way this tube kind of builds up overtones and harmonics as you play multiple notes together, this thing does a lot of really interesting textural stuff, because even without turning it on, I want to kind of like call attention to the difference in playing notes by themselves. Versus when you play multiple notes on top of each other in this thing, you can hear a lot of, like I said, there's no other way to phrase it, harmonic buildup. It kind of creates these overtones that both clash and also create additional kind of hair and grit in the tube stage. And the harmonic doubler at the front of this thing will basically do a ton of that stuff, but even more so with even single notes. So let's give it a listen. And similarly, let's listen to some chords. So you've got kind of conventional power chords in the standard mode. And then the harmonic build-up version. But of course, that's perfect fifths. Those are very easy to kind of like create simple harmonic richness if you're just playing power chords. Let's go ahead and listen to some more interesting chords, including like so going again, it's fascinating to hear how different chord structures and different kind of like harmonies within your chord shape kind of build out differently in high gain environments like this. So even those two notes, so a perfect fifth, and then suspending that chord. And then same thing with bringing in, I mean, like I said, single note, harmonic doubler. And now you've got that perfect fifth. And then the suspended. Ooh, that's interesting. For context, that chord is this. It's a chord I use all the time. It's a chord I love. It's basically a power chord with a seventh above it. This is the most music theory I've ever talked on this channel, and I swear to God, it'll be the most music theory I ever do talk on this channel. Oh, the grime in that. It completely annihilates that chord. That's fascinating, even without that harmonic on. But then that harmonic buildup. It just obliterates that chord. Okay, I'm gonna really quickly, this is about to get really janky. Let's zoom out a little bit and pan our camera. I'm gonna break something here. This is a bad idea. I apologize in advance for having done all this, but this is, I wanna just, let's rack focus up to the guitar neck. For context, this is the chord shapes we're messing with here. So standard kind of G power chord. And then drop that G octave down to the seventh. And listen to how those two chords like turn into, that second chord turns into absolute chaos. And similarly, a B minor, it's technically just a B power chord, but in the key of D, a B minor power chord. And then modulate that fifth up to the 4 of the key. Where in normalcy this would be. Yeah, this harmonic stage in this thing, let's pull back into focus, is fascinating. There are some very, very kind of conventionally, I mean, sarcastic air quotes, conventionally useful sounds for it. If you're playing in octaves, perfect fifths, that kind of thing, potentially even thirds. Let's give it a listen. So an octave, a perfect fifth, and then a third. So again, we're playing. And all of those work. But then if you want to kind of like, you know, make it a little bit weird. It really offers you the ability to kind of create moments of chaos without having to change anything. You just adding color to a chord with this harmonic buildup can add chaos to that chord in turn, which is really interesting. And being able to take it out for when you still want to be able to use those chords. Is really, really interesting. Thanks for listening.